Good evening, KZFR. Hope everyone is having a good night out there tonight. Well, this is Write It On Air. Write It On Air is made possible by the generous contributions of KZFR supporters and by Affordable Automotive, locally owned by Mike Button and family since 1996. Affordable Automotive grows their business one customer at a time, repairing or maintaining any car, truck, or SUV, ensuring a safe and reliable vehicle at 2106 Park Avenue in Chico, with financing available. Appointments by calling 892-1774 and at chicoautomotive.com. Voted best in Chico the last 5 years in a row. Whew, it's a pretty stellar review. How you doing, Brandon?
I'm doing just fine. Happy to be back.
Yeah, it's been 2 whole weeks. It's like it's consistent.
Yeah, it's not like we've been doing this for months.
No, definitely not. So for those of you who don't know, this is Write It On Air. Write It On Air is a show that I've designed to take writing. Really, there's nothing else around it. People submit to me short stories, flash fiction, poetry, anything really, and we air it on here, and we stress the emphasis on not being, I guess, a critique show, more of a celebration.
Yeah, we're more here to appreciate your work. We don't care if you're a professional, if you're an amateur, if this is just some story you wrote on the bus if you're a student, We're here to just look at it and say what we like and just kind of pick it apart and give you the perspective from a reader. We aren't here to tell you whether it's good or bad. If you send a follow-up email, we can give you that, but we're not here to do that on air.
Which is a good point to make. If you want to submit pieces, you can do so at write.onair@gmail.com.
That is WRITE.onair@gmail.com.
Write.onair@gmail.com. We have a Facebook page. We have a YouTube page, which I am getting better at uploading, but I forgot the last one. So it's on there now.
He says better, but he's going to forget again, and it'll be uploaded next Tuesday before next show.
Yes, it definitely will. So it'll be on there. You can listen to it. I have all the details of who was on the show and stuff like that. And, I think we've even had music on here before. Nothing live, but
one piece.
One piece, yeah. Yeah, definitely. Please submit. We need people to keep submitting. This is your show. You guys keep it going, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
So for tonight, we've got 3 pieces, one of which is submitted by a friend of mine, and one's anonymous, and another one I actually wrote, so this should be pretty good. The first one is called Extents by Lillie Alsky, and we're going to go ahead and dive right into that. Extents. When he touched me, his fingers found their way through flesh, beyond sticky innards, somewhere in the beyond, the metaphysical of my heart, and he touched my soul. When I touched him, I made contact with flesh, skin against skin. My fingers wouldn't reach beyond. They weren't long enough. Whew, that's a haunting piece. I mean, obvious disconnect between lovers.
Yeah,
it's probably the root of that entire thing. I love this piece because there's so much wound up in it. There's guilt at the very end. My fingers wouldn't reach beyond; they weren't long enough. That's saying who I am physically can't actually breach this gap. No matter how hard I try, I am literally not enough for this to go there. There's that huge emphasis of guilt at the end. When he touched me, his fingers found their way through flesh, beyond sticky innards, somewhere in the beyond, the metaphysical of my heart, and he touched my soul. There's a spiritual connection between these lovers almost, which, those are always, I would wager to say, some of the hardest to tear away from when it ends. And especially if the other person isn't having the same experience as you, I can't imagine anything worse. It's horrible. There's also, when I touched him, I made contact with flesh, skin against skin. Man, I couldn't get any deeper. That to me just hurts to read. I mean, I think everyone has had, well, I would imagine most people have had lovers that are like this, and sometimes it's just is what it is. People come together like cold rocks clinking in the night in a river or something like that, and sometimes it just isn't enough for the other person. And this one is called Extents, EXTENTS, so the extent of something, which, man, That's telling too. It's like a limit. There is a limit that I can go into this person, and they've reached mine. They're at the fullest extent of it. Insane. Any ideas, Brennan?
Well, as you know, I don't have these kinds of relationships, so I can't really speak on this.
Fair enough. Right. Man, trying to think of some other ones that I wanted to point out here, because something jumped out to me when I read it. Well, there's a definite duality in here. The beginning part is like a spiritual awakening, almost a spiritual. I can't think of the word for it. A spiritual connection, obviously, which of course I've said, and then the second part is just a flesh part, which, oh man, there's such a barrier between the two. I mean, if there is a disconnect like this, usually between lovers, I just cannot think of something worse than that. It's horrible. Brandon looks at me blankly. It's definitely an intense piece. The extent of love is something that is always different for each person, and something that is incredibly potent, especially if one person feels more so than the other. There's just no way that can ever be good. There's no other way around that. It's probably the most painful thing I can imagine. When you or the other person feels more, it's hard to keep that relationship going, and to an extent, that's all you can do is just write about it, I guess. Great piece, Lillie. Very great piece. That was extense. Well, this next one is anonymous, and it is called Next. So anonymous, next. We'll dive right in. Anonymous, next. A day of promises fulfilled. Years of trial brought to a moment of triumph. Under blankets of praise lie unease, ousted like a sliver from skin. Attention then, none. Expectations? The word weighs wearily on those who attend. Happy graduation. And I made a mistake at the start of this. That was the wrong title there. That was the one I had written. It wasn't by Anonymous. I had reread one down. So I wrote that one. Can you guess what about?
Yeah, this holds a special place in your heart, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because our host here, Mr. Kevin Cook, has just graduated college. Everyone gave him a golf clap.
Very quietly and slow. Yeah. I wrote this one about graduation, obviously. I mean, it's such a day where everything that you've been working toward is all put into one spot, but it's not the end. So you get this whole celebration of, yes, we've done it. This is amazing. But everyone kind of expects you to keep going. It's like, well, what's next? Like, have you lined anything else up? And so the sweetness of everything coming to realization, years of trial brought to a moment of triumph. But underneath it all, there's kind of this unease of, oh, man, but it's not over. It's not done. This is just such a fleeting moment. So I try to enjoy it, but you can't because there's this pull back and forth. And then recently, a sense that I've had kind of around the idea of graduating, I guess, is going from this community of students, this community of teachers, these people that want you to succeed in life and that will really support you in any decision you make, in any direction you want to go, disappears in a day. It's like being ousted like a sliver. You're just kind of pushed out, and then everyone moves on, which really is just like most things in life, I guess. It's just fleeting, fast, and constant. There's constant movement the entire time. It's a really interesting way to look at it, but I wrote that actually sitting at graduation, at least the first structure of it, while I was waiting in my many, many rows of students sitting there, lonely, bored, for hours in the heat. Yeah, that came to mind. So, any thoughts?
Yeah, it's one of those things that's just like, well, I'm done, and I can enjoy this for a day or two maybe, and then I've got to start planning. What next? Do I look for a job? Do I look to move on to a graduate program? Where do you go from your degree? Because you've been on the school track for years and years and years. Now it's like,
Done.
make every decision for the rest. Make some of the most important decisions for the rest of your life that will
Right
set
now.
a basis for your future.
Yeah, nerve-wracking is one way to put it, I would say. Well, that was next by me. Huzzah! And then we have one more piece. This one is by Anonymous, and Brandon's going to take this one. What's it called, Brandon?
This one is Don't Forget. Don't forget. Appearance is everything in this world. Whatever you do, be authentic. Make sure to stand up straight. See the magazines? That's what good humans are. See the one in the mirror? Inside is where it all stays. Let build, then choke as it rises to the top, as foam seeping out of your mouth. Inhale, but don't exhale. No one wants your waste. What do you want? To be alone? To be not alone? Either way, no one cares. And don't forget the vacancy that draws them all in selfishly. Good, they say. Lost, wrong, pathetic. The words that blow out of my head and paint the walls. Be what they all need. And don't forget, you can't have what you crave. The old scar begets the new. Swallow what bubbles out and pack their wounds with your presence. And watch as the new skin pushes you away. Now, the next consumes, grows, and leaves behind you. Don't forget.
Whew. Any first impressions, Brennan?
This person has issues with feeling comfortable with themselves.
Yeah, there's a lot of layers here.
Yeah.
Superficiality.
And this deals with a lot of problems that I know a lot of younger people, especially high schoolers, deal with, especially this stanza here about see the magazines? That's what good humans are. See the one in the mirror? All those magazines are photoshopped.
Yep.
All of them.
Not real.
And so many, especially young women, look at models on the cover of magazines and see a size 0 body and think, that's what beauty is. That's what I need to be. That's what everyone should be. And so there's problems with anemia and bulimia and all these problems with everyone trying to get that magazine look, that fit, thin, trim, looks like you've been at the gym 8 days a week kind of look, and it kills people to try and get there. And some people, they have the metabolism, they have the drive, and they can get there and still be relatively healthy. But a lot more people, it's not good. A lot of people do a lot of very unhealthy things to try and look what they think is the ideal of beauty on that magazine. Yeah. And then the rest of this just goes into so much more, like, what do you want? To be alone? To be not alone? Either way, no one cares. It's kind of saying, it doesn't matter what you want. The world doesn't care. The world's going to be the world. And you don't matter.
Fast paced. It's not a hospitable place, if anything.
And it keeps repeating, don't forget, don't forget, don't forget. Don't forget you're trash. Don't forget the world doesn't care about you. Don't forget that you can't have what you want. Don't forget that people are going to use you and push you away, which is what most of that last bit's about. Yeah.
There's that part on the skin where you're helping out with wounds that someone else has, so when you reach out and put yourself into this other person to help them, eventually you're pushed away anyways. There's even
there's so much packed into this.
yeah, there's a lot of different layers. There's even a part on there, which I'm gonna reach over and grab it from Brandon here, where it talks about. Forgive me, let me find it real quickly. Well, I can't seem to find it just yet. There's a few pages here, but there's a part where it talks about, well, it alludes to suicide. There's a part where it's saying, "Oh, the words that blow out of my head and paint the walls."
Yeah.
I mean, it's all in here. There's this whole idea of superficiality coming to the magazines that you were talking about, and how that's constantly hammered in. I mean, the "don't forget" is just like society saying the same thing over and over and over again. And then when you do express some feelings, once you let it out, once it all goes there, the world says, "What do you want? To be alone? To not alone? What do you want?" And then, well, it doesn't really matter. No one cares anyways. And so you're left alone again. No matter what direction you're choosing, you're stuck there. And the last part, there's another one in here. Swallow what bubbles out and pack their wounds with your presence. I love the first part of that. Swallow what bubbles out. Keep everything inside you. Doesn't matter if it's being regurgitated and you can't keep it inside you anymore.
Oh.
Put it back. We don't want it. No one wants your trash. Nothing. Keep your own baggage to yourself. This is such a painful piece to read, I would say. I mean, it's a critique on society. It's a critique on what society does to people, I would say. Definitely that one. You can't have what you crave. The old scar begets the new, meaning like one issue from an old generation goes to the next one. It's repetitive. It's traditional.
Yeah.
It's built into the fabric of what we have here in society. Just constant negativity and just pain.
Yeah, and if there's any young people listening, I'm going to tell you right now. The rest of us that are older, that seem like we have it all figured out, we don't have a clue. We've just got a few more scars than you. We've made the mistakes before, and we learned from them. There's no right answer to life. There's no right way of doing things. There's no right way to be. There's no right way to walk, talk, or act. The only thing you have to worry about is be respectful of others around you, and respect their space, and they will respect yours.
Yep.
And then try and live a life you enjoy. Don't live a life to be proud of. Don't live a life for honor or glory or to build a legacy. Live a life you want to live because you want to live it that way.
Yep. And you will attract people who are like-minded going through that. It might be tough on your own time. Really, I guess we'll segue into the next segment. Usually at the end of these, towards the end of this, I always try to synthesize and bring together, as Brandon nods laughingly. And sometimes it's a shot in the dark. Other times it's still a shot in the dark, but sometimes it works. And really, I think all these pieces are very similar in a way. The first one is about someone trying out love and trying out the what could arguably be seen as the pinnacle of human existence. What we want at the top, what everyone says, "Oh, just find love. Love is what you need. That's all you need." There's songs about it everywhere. I'm sure you could look them up and find them. And it talks about, Lillie's piece talks about a trap of love. Sometimes that you don't even know you're stumbling into until after the fact. Like it all has to happen before you can realize what it is, which is a misconnection. You want one thing, you have one ideal, but the other person does not. And sometimes you can't know that until after something has happened, until after there has been a closeness, and then the separation, when you can think and have your thoughts clear again, that's when you know it, which is a tough part, as Brandon was giving advice on what this last piece is saying, kind of just like, don't forget all this stuff. It goes around, and be okay with being yourself. So too, be okay with love being rough. Sometimes it's just going to be tough out there, and there will be times when you don't have a connection, or you have too much of a connection that you didn't bargain for and the other person doesn't, and you're left empty. That's a rough piece. Man, I look at Lillie's piece, and that one really, really hits me pretty hard. That's a really profound piece. And the second piece that I wrote, I mean, also kind of a little bit about society in a certain sense. We have years of trial brought to a moment of triumph, but there's still more. There's still more going on there. You aren't done after that. You got to keep lining up, because I'm sorry, graduation, you don't graduate then die.
And you don't graduate and suddenly have a house
Yeah.
and a career and a family.
Yeah, people don't say that.
That's not handed to you with the diploma.
No, if it is, what school did you go to? Please let me apply. There's a moment of triumph, but it's kind of ebbs and flows. There's different parts of this, and even in one of the peaks of it, where you are getting celebrated for work that you've done, for a job or a graduation, more things come after that. Everything always keeps coming, and it keeps going until you do die. That is life, and that's what these pieces are saying. And then the last piece, don't forget, man, society is rough.
Yeah.
There's a lot of bad parts about it. The magazines, the things we see that keep churning, that take our humanity away, that make us doubt ourselves, they're tough to deal with. Whoever wrote the last piece, I do hope that there's different types of writing, I would say.
Yeah.
And I'll segue into this. There's types that are therapeutic, which I think mostly all writing can be in some ways, but there's therapeutic, and there's types that are warning and like indicative, where you're like writing this because you want someone to reach out and see this and be like, this is potent, someone see this please.
Unfortunately, a lot of those pieces are never left somewhere where someone can find it or see it. They're never given to someone.
Kept inside.
Yeah.
So whoever wrote this one, first off, bravo for submitting. This is an intense piece, very well written, great job, but also I hope you're doing well out there, because this is rough. This is a rough piece. There's a lot of self-doubt and critique, very much so. Each one of these pieces kind of approaches a different aspect on that, actually. If you look at it, Lillie's piece is about love, connection between two people. The piece, the piece that I wrote, which is about graduation, which is the opposite, kind of the high of, you look what I've done by myself solo. Not necessarily by myself. I know a lot of people go into helping other people in college and stuff, but look at this, it's great, but also there's still more. There's so much more, so I got to keep going. Mm-hmm. And the last piece of, don't forget that everything is telling you that you are wrong, that you can't do this. There's walls against you. Man, we should have had one last piece that was like a we need who submitted 2 weeks ago? I think Sierra had one that was about summer.
We need something happy.
We need something happy.
Well, yours is kind of happy.
That's true. That's true.
Yours is about completing like a 4-year event of hard work and dedication.
The end of it does say happy graduation. That's a happy line.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting getting these pieces. I wanted to talk about that a bit too towards the end, and we're kind of approaching that, so this is a good time for it. Reading these pieces for us is experiencing these pieces, I would say. A large sense of being in close contact with these words really brings out a lot of different feelings. And I would say it's almost like sampling food, in a sense. When I read this, I get a taste of exactly what you were wanting, exactly what emotion you were talking about. So when I read Lillie's, I ache. It's tough to read. When you read about love that is, what's the word? I don't think it's unrequited, because
that's
it unrequited?
That's unrequited love. That's
unrequited.
It's not mutually shared.
Okay, then I was correct.
It can be either at different levels, or you love someone that doesn't love you.
Yeah, that it hurts. It hurts to read that, because most people do argue that love is the pinnacle of what we're here for, what we're here to experience. And seeing it misplaced like that, or just missed, I guess, like Two Ships in the Night, that hurts. That is such a tough piece, and my heart goes out to you, Lillie. That is a very intimate, intense piece. And then there's graduation, happier, but still kind of forlorn. Feels like there's more going on there. And there's Don't Forget, which is we've hit that one quite a few times.
Yeah,
that one hurts. I hope everyone who wrote these are doing well, including myself. I hope I'm doing well. That's a tough piece.
You seem to be doing fine.
That's true. Brendan and I are roommates, so he sees me more than most. So if he says I'm doing fine, I'm doing fine. Man, what else do you want to add to these?
It's hard to say much more about these pieces, because to me they're all very different. These are not similar. These are about entirely separate aspects of your life. Because I'm a very logical person. I truncate life into different boxes, and love and school and
separate.
Emotional stability tend to be separate. Love and emotional stability can kind of cross sometimes.
Yeah.
But you know, schools work. You're assigned, which honestly, we can talk about school systems some other time.
Yeah.
Kevin and I both have some very long opinions about school systems, but the way school works right now is you show up, there's a long series of check boxes for you to tick off.
Hoops to jump through.
Yes. Once you've ticked all the boxes, you're given a piece of paper and told, good luck with the world. Love is the exact opposite of that. Love is the most abstract thing in the world. There is no list for love. There is no list of, if you check these things off,
you're done.
You will be happy. You will find the love of your life. That list doesn't exist. There is no, if you go to this bar at this time and talk to this person in this corner on the third Monday of March, you will have found your soulmate. There is no cheat sheet. There is no magic place you're going to find that. It's just going to happen someday. Somewhere, sometime. You will talk to some random person and you will have a ridiculously intimate connection that you never thought you could ever have. And unfortunately, Lillie's is about thinking you found that and trying to see if you both share that, and one of you thinks you have, and you try and reach out and you don't quite make it.
Yeah, it's about this intimacy that was there for one person but not the other. It's about that shot for it, and then there was a disconnect.
Yeah, you reached out for it and you didn't quite hit the mark.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's sad. I'm sure it hurts. But at the same time, what's that old saying? It's better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all.
Oof.
It's better to have made the effort and tried in hopes that it's true love than to have not tried and said, maybe it could have been.
I loathe that, because even that statement hurts.
But it's true, isn't it?
It's
It hurts, but it's true.
You can argue that, yes. I always push back against that one because, I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm just afraid of being hurt in that regard. But
well, yeah, it's scary to be hurt emotionally, but at the same time, because I'm sorry, kids, and anyone that's of a younger persuasion listening to this, that old saying, "Sticks and stones may hurt my bone, sticks and stones may hurt my bones, but words never hurt me." I'm
Wrong.
sorry, words cut deep. And emotions are the things that take the longest to heal, and they hurt the worst. I'm sorry. I've been stabbed, and that hasn't hurt worse than some things some people have said to me.
Yep.
It's one of those things that I would rather try and be hurt and take months to get over it than to have not tried at all. Because you've got to say, it could have been. It might be.
That's what life is, just a series of those, honestly.
Yes.
Let's try it again.
In love, in finding your career, in finding your hobbies, the people you want to hang out with, friends, loved ones.
All of the above. Well, we're nearing the end of our program tonight, and everyone who submitted, thank you. These are wonderful pieces, as narcissistic as that sounds, because one of them is mine. But seriously, thank you. These pieces are profound to read. I mean, they give me different perspectives on life, and I hope for the listeners it's doing the same thing, because they are just very wonderful pieces. They're heartfelt, they're deep, they talk about different parts of reality that are intimate.
Yep.
Social critiques, love, anger, sadness, all these things. They're all wrapped up in there, and this is a part of you. So people who submit, anyone who's submitted in the past and plans to do so or considers it, thank you, because it's meaningful.
Thank you very much.
It's meaningful, and you do deserve to get this aired, which you can do so at write.onair@gmail.com.
That's write.onair@gmail.com.
Please do submit. Please be part of this. This is something that is kind of like my child, and I love seeing people come on here and be a little bit nervous at first, and then eventually by the end of the show they've hit their stride, and they're very much enjoying it. So definitely submit. Do so. write.onair@gmail.com. And I hope everyone has a good night. We'll catch you in 2 weeks, Brandon.
Yep.
All
I'll
right.
be back.
Perfect. Me too. I think I have to be. It's kind of my show. So, well, this is Right On Air. Right On Air is made possible by the generous contributions of KZFR supporters and by Harrison Daily Wright Accountancy Corporation in Chico. Harrison Daily Wright provides certified public accountants specializing in accounting and bookkeeping services, auditing, tax prep and planning, management support, services for nonprofit organizations, and more. To reach Harrison Daily Wright, call 895-1209. Have a good night, everyone.
Bless up KZFR Massive. This